Hello, career thought leaders. It's good to see you today. And we are going to be talking about 3 tools that you can use with your clients to help them in transition. And we know that there's so much transition going on right now when we're talking about layoffs and the federal buyouts or whatever they want to call them. We're just in a lot of transition. And many of us might be in transition as well. I've heard a lot of our colleagues going back to jobs or starting new businesses or launching new services. So some of these tools might be a little helpful for that too, but they're mostly going to be focused on how do you help your client if they're thinking about making a transition? How do you help them decide what type of transition is going to be the best fit for them right now? And then how can they be most successful in that transition? So we're going to go through those 3 tools. Drop me a note, say hello, let me know that you can hear me. Oh, hi, Valerie. It's so good to see you. I do love seeing your notes in the chat. So feel free to drop those in the chat, even if you're watching the replay, and say hello. It's cold in Dallas. Oh, man, it's super cold here. I was like, I might turtleneck on, which, yeah, it's cold. So let's dive in to what is going on when someone comes in and they say they want to make a transition. Here's what I've noticed. Love to hear if you've noticed it too, that when people want to make a transition, or sometimes even if they're getting laid off, it is like set it all on fire, Marie. And I'm sure they come into your office saying the same thing. Like, I'm done. I want a huge transition. Like, I just need to do something completely different. They're frustrated, and there's usually some emotion driving that decision, driving that comment. And we sometimes have to help dispel that or just let it go, right? Let's get it out. I was teaching in class earlier today. So they used to put a trash can. This is actually in leadership training. They used to put a trash can in the middle of the table and say, just like, get out all the bad stuff, right? But then we have to go, okay, so what really needs to change? What is going to make the most difference in your life? Because here's the thing, when you make a huge transition, when you set it all on fire, you have a lot of rebuilding to do. And it might mean that you have to start over, that you have to do a huge, long job search, that you might be unemployed for a long time, that you might have to be starting at a lower level in an organization. And people don't often think all of that through when they want to set it all on fire. So that's what we're here to help them think through. Um, oh, my video is frozen. Fun stuff. Hopefully it will just come back for you. Okay, so what do we want to talk with them about? So I've been using a very simplified model for a long time of, the closer you stay to the job you've been in and the role you've been in, the faster your job search will be. Then I got some input from a wonderful colleague at Colorado State, Andrea Karopis, and she had a more complex model. And I was like, ooh, I like that. So I took it and I adjusted it a little bit, and I came up with this. And we've been having some fun with this in our certified career transition coach class. We've been having a little bit of fun with it and just saying, okay, if we use this, how can we talk clients through it a little bit better? So here's the idea. Same company, horizontal role. So same role, same company can sometimes be the fastest move, depending on the company. A lot of companies are looking internal right now because they don't want to, right? They don't want the expense of hiring externally. But then this next one, the teal one here, is same role, same industry. So that one I might move companies, but I'm going to stay in the same job and in the same industry. And here's what is happening when I do that. So when I stay in the same job and the same industry, it's fast. People can see, oh yeah, you could plug in right away and get started in that job. So when someone is in crisis, when they've been unemployed for a while, or they can't afford to be unemployed for a long time, this is often their best chance, is to stay in the same role, same company, or same industry. Obviously not the same company if they're getting laid off, but as similar as possible is going to be the fastest search. And those are the 2 blue ones at the bottom. Then you get promoted role, same company. So if you want to change what you're doing, a lot of times the best place to do that is actually inside your own company, especially if it's a large company, because you're already a known quantity. You can get those internal referrals, all of those things. And again, we're seeing this trend of companies are still wanting to hire internal, but that is a little bit company culture dependent. Some companies have the system set up to hire within and allow those movements, and some just don't. So faster to stay in the same company if you're going to change roles, or at the very least to stay in the same industry. So that's this kind of peachy colored one, is that I'm going to stay in the same industry when I change roles. So if I wanted to go from being an engineer to being a marketing person, product manager, whatever, staying in the same industry is going to make a lot more sense. I make more sense in that role when I've got the industry expertise to make that transition. Then, like, this is the fire sale thing that people come in, they go, "Oh, new job, new company, new industry, new everything." That's a long search. A lot of times that requires education or something, or even starting at a lower level and then moving up inside of that new industry. There's nothing wrong with that, and our clients need to understand the reality of what that looks like. So same is faster. The further away we get from what company industry role, the longer it's going to take for them to make this transition. So we've built a little coaching tool around asking questions about this. What is it that's really bothering you, right? What do you love about what you do? What is it that really needs to change? Because when we can pinpoint what really needs to change for them to be either more stable, although we can talk about whether or not that really exists, or more happy, whatever it might be that they're needing more of, then we can help them kind of right size the change that they're looking to make. And that's what we want to help them do. We want to help them right size that transition so that it makes sense within the big scope of our life, because we all have life, right? Kids, house, whatever it might be. And we've got to be able to figure out what makes sense within our life and our career, right? Life work integration going on here. So this is one of the tools that we've been using and just really helping people think about how big of a transition is going to get you where you want to go, or what are the stepping stones if there is a big transition. What are the stepping stones to be able to do that in a way that makes sense? So maybe I get a job in the new industry, but it's kind of at the same level, and then I take that step up. Even better if I can find some companies that promote from within, have systems that are created to do that, and I can network and maybe find some of those or do some research and find some of those. Typically larger companies that might have those systems set up where there's some internal mobility expected and or even built in. When we do that, when we help clients kind of right size the transition, then they can say, okay, this is what makes sense. And we as coaches can then also look at what areas do we really need to dig into. So again, you've probably seen this. We use this as our kind of backdrop in the career transition coach class, where we've got to look at what are their motivators, what's driving them, what industries will they thrive in. So if a new industry is really big, important, we were going to put more focus in there. If a new role inside the same industry makes sense, we're not going to put a lot of focus there, right? Skills and strengths, what do I want to do on a regular basis, day to day? We're going to look at that. And then experiences, and this is part of why I developed this model, is because most of the assessments out there and those types of things don't take into an account what have you been doing, because you are most likely to get hired when you can connect your experiences from what you've been doing to what matters to the new company. But we'd have to be able to pull from those old experiences to do that. And we need to spend some time really understanding what are people's experiences that they want to build on, and how can we help them connect the dots. So that's the model, that once we understand how big of a transition are they really looking to make, then we can sorry, my screen's moving around on me. Then we can figure out where we really need to dig in. So here's what's going on with some of our people, right? You've got people in tech, huge layoffs going on, Workday, Google, Amazon, right? We've got those layoffs going on, and those people are in tech. Some of them might be in technical roles. Some of them may just be in the tech industry, but they're in marketing, sales, whatever that might be. So how can we help those people and say, okay, if you want to transition industries, if you want to get out of tech, is this volatile? I don't, we could have those conversations about, is there anything really that's not, but where are we going to go industry wise? And if you are transitioning industries, how can we stay at a similar position as possible so that it makes sense that you're transitioning that industry? If I'm going to get out of tech, and I could look at the industries that are most similar to that industry, right? What might be adjacent? What might be a similar culture? What might value the tech experience? I can look at all of that to help me figure out which industries are really the best fit, because the smaller move I make, the easier and faster my job search will be. Now, if we've got people transitioning out of federal government, we might look at what organizations are similar to that. And Nancy and I talked about this last week, and she was saying, of course, state and local government, big NGOs, some of those might be similar, but then you're also looking at where's the accessibility. And those organizations all tend to be fairly hard to get into. They've got big, long hiring processes, got a lot of gatekeepers. And so even though like a small company might be very different industry-wise from the federal government, it may be more easy to network and access and get somebody to talk to you. So if you're making that transition, especially from federal to a small company, then you want to stay again to a similar role as possible so that you can back it up with experience, right? You can talk about your experiences that you do have and then figure out how will they relate to this audience. And this is part of what I love about this whole process, is that you've got the what and the where. And the what and the where, and we're juggling the what and where until we get more and more of the clarity. And then we can say, okay, now that we know what we want to do and where we want to do it, where are those connection points? And this is where some of the branding comes in, is understanding who I am and what I've done, and how does that add value to my audience. And Jackie and I talked about that a few weeks ago, the positioning session that we did, where it's really helping people put that puzzle together, because it's hard to do that. There's an old saying, right, that it's hard to see the label from inside the jar. And it's hard to do that for ourselves, to say, okay, here's my strengths and here's the industry, and where are those connecting points, or how does my uniqueness add value to that audience? And of course, that's what most of us do with our clients, and it's a lot of fun. Excellent. So love to hear, what are you all doing to help people figure out that what and that where? And does this make sense, right? Give me yes, this makes sense, that we want to stay as close to the same industry and same role if we're making that fast transition, or if we need to make that faster transition. When people have a little bit more wiggle room, when they have maybe a cushion financially, then we might talk about that bigger move. Or again, we might talk about the stair step move of, if you move here, then you can move there. And so one of the clients I was working with a little while ago, again, wanted to move from engineering to marketing, having a hard time doing that internally. And so it's like, okay, it's time to get out. It's time to move out. And there is a time where we've got to say, okay, I've been trying to make this move internally. It's time to move out. When we move out, stay at the same role. And even for this person, it was stay in the same role, same industry, take that stair step up to now being a product manager, and now looking at the step out into a slightly different industry. And this is hard for people to see sometimes, right? They've got this little tiny steps. It's almost like you've got a slinky on the stairs, and you've got to go one at a time, because if you try to do the whole thing, you just go crashing down all the stairs. Nobody wants to do that, right? So we're going to take that piece and go step by step. Oh yeah, Valerie. And the who are you? That is like the underlying foundation, that then we can pull the what do you want to do out of it, and the who do you want to work for layer on top of it. And that who am I piece, that's the, like, we want that to be on the solid foundation. If people are struggling with that, we're like building on sand, right? And it's not going to work. So when we can do that, then we can figure out which of the pieces make sense to move into the next phase. So I love that. And of course, using the personal branding process and the 360 reach assessment to help people really understand who they are, so that they can pull those pieces out of it. Now, not everyone wants to dive that deep. Not all of the coaches do, not all of our clients do. And so that's why, and I kind of explained this last week, but the personal branding process is that depth foundation piece. And then the certified career transition coach is really, okay, so now what? What are we going to do with that? How are we going to bring that out into the world in job language, in titles? And this is how you're going to plug into an organization. So it was just one more model to share with you that I think is helpful in terms of how the career transition process looks. And we've been teaching this class for more than 10 years, just started to put together some models to help people understand what this looks like. And maybe this will be helpful for your clients as well. That first, we've got to know the, the building blocks. Where do you want to work? What do you want to do? What experience do you have to help us move that forward? Then we can see how is that your values and research going to play into it, because a lot of times those factor into where do you want to work, what industries, what specific companies, what's important about the work that you do, but also the culture of the companies that you want to work into, that it's going to be a good fit. And we're always on some kind of a sliding scale there based on how much flexibility people have, in terms of moving geographically and time that they can take in their search. Might have to make some concessions to be able to get our needs met in terms of finding a job or whatever it might be. And then, of course, once they've picked something or see the future of where they might want to go, how do we build a bridge to that? How do we help them make that transition, connect the dots, so that an employer can see, yes, this person is qualified? And we obviously do that in our messaging, but sometimes we might have to do it in a bridge job. And I'm not a huge fan of like a stopgap job. It might have to happen, but really quickly, we're talking about a bridge job. And again, a bridge job is something as closely aligned to possible with the industry and role that you've been in, maybe one step towards that new industry or new role. But the closer we can stay to what you've been doing, the easier it will be to make that transition. And I think this is one of the other mistakes that I see candidates make. I once had an engineer and he came in and he said, "Oh, I would just want to go work for a moving company. I've been looking for work for a long time. And, I think it'd be great to just help people move." I was like, "Okay, when have you worked at a moving company?" "Oh, well, I haven't." Well, very few places in the world, no matter what we might judge them as, are going to hire you when you don't have any experience doing that. So thinking that, oh, this job looks easy to get. No, they want to hire people that have experience doing that type of work too. So thinking that we're going to go get a job that looks easy to get or whatever it might be, it doesn't really work that way, because they want people with experience too, for the most part. And especially in the job market that we're in right now, where there's a lot of there's a lot of applications for almost every type of job. If you don't have the experience doing something similar, you're really not you're really wasting your time. So we're helping people connect those pieces of experience connected to the future, and how do we build the little around to it so that it makes sense to everybody for you to be applying to that role. So as you're looking for, those clients that are in transition, just to be thinking about how can you help them right size the transition, or find those stair steps if they do have something in mind, or if they're wanting to explore bigger in terms of what might be possible, that you can get that vision and then work it backwards into, what does this really look like for me, and how do I move it forward? And when we do that, then we can move into the process of really figuring out what's the biggest rocks, right? What do we need to know, get clear on, so that you can make those decisions and move forward. And when you are transitioning industry, like out of the federal government, out of tech, to be thinking, one, about the industries that are most similar, that would see that person as an immediate value add. And then two, those roles that are most similar to what they've been doing, so that they can plug right in, have the right skills, and not have to try so hard to demonstrate how they could be qualified for that position. So I always think about the what and the where. And then of course the how is, you've got to be able to show you've got that experience And then the who kind of weaves in with that value of why you choose that company and why would they choose you. And we've been having a lot of fun with some activities and thinking about how can we help clients do this in a new way? So I'm excited to share those with you as we go through the next few weeks. We'll be sharing some of them. And of course, we've got our career transition coach class coming up. It starts on March 4th. Just happened that way. It was March 4th to a new career, right? So we'll help your clients do that. And it's the Certified Career Transition Coach program. So if you have any questions or you want to, get any of the visuals that I shared today, feel free to reach out to me or drop a note in the chat here, wherever you're watching, and we'll connect with you so that we can send those to you. I hope that you all have a great day. Stay warm wherever you are. It seems like there's a lot of places across the US, at least, where it's cold. Our friends in Australia are laughing while they're on the beach, but we will see you next Tuesday for the Now, the New, and the Next in Careers. Thanks, everyone. Take care.